Witam Państwa bardzo serdecznie.
Good morning. Let's start this presentation of our results in the first half of 2025, starting with the summary of key events. The key events include our revenue growing 37%, even more in Q2 quarter-on-quarter, 41%. Our EBITDA also increased, especially in Q2 at a slightly slower rate. Let me explain why. This is due to the conditions in the automotive industry. During our previous meetings, we said that the situation was not too good and was changeable. We were expecting some changes, and we actually invested in the transformation in this sector. What we did was we had to say goodbye to some of our people and close down some of our divisions, and we paid the cost of it. We put some people on the bench, which means we were paying their costs without using their talents in production. So we paid these costs in the first half of the year, especially in Q2. Unless the situation in this industry continues to deteriorate, we've paid the cost and we are not expecting any more in the coming quarters. But it's a big if, because the conditions are not calling for much optimism in the sector, which also reflects on the percentage EBITDA margin, which decreased, especially in the second quarter, due to the situation in the automotive industry. I'd like to stress and thank all those colleagues who have been very busy working hard to close the gap caused by the situation in the automotive industry, which we have been successful doing. As you can see on the slide, according to our internal forecasts, the automotive industry, when it comes to EBITDA, contributed 10 million less than we expected. But according to our internal plans, we are still on track. That's because we are well diversified. Through the great efforts of our people, we have replaced the missing revenue from the automotive industry with revenue from other sectors, as you will see in the next slides when we talk about the revenue by sector. Let's flip the slide. For quite a while, we have been reporting the percentage contribution of revenue from the BBC contract, 15% of revenue in Q2. An important client, but not a big risk if anything, knock on wood, goes wrong. But if you feel concerned, nothing is going wrong. It's going very well, and we are quite positive that we can keep up this revenue level until the end of the year at least. And the situation next year is also looking good. As you probably know, we have started to review our strategic options, and we have appointed Cascadia in the US to assist us in this review. We are trying to see how to implement our strategy, possibly modified if necessary. We will be addressing these questions by the year's end, and this is the target date we have committed to. When it comes to our clients, it's business as usual. It's not that clients have left us, but we have completed some of the projects with no new projects in the pipeline for the same clients, but we have new projects for new clients underway. When we talk about the outlook, there's one point to note. The outlook in this industry depends on the kind of company you are. The big companies whose business model is largely based on body leasing, the prospects are so. For companies like us, however, where most of our work is project-based, the outlook is much stronger. And you can see it when you look at the peer group comparison. So don't be surprised that projects come and go. This is actually a good thing, because it shows that our company is hired to achieve an objective. We are paid we are thanked, and then we are called again when the clients need us. Because these services, especially based on AI, are very much in demand, and the demand is rising. So this is a good thing, though it might seem otherwise. So the old-fashioned model, the business model of those companies in the sector is coming to an end, whereas the business model we represent is becoming more popular, which shows in the revenue across all the sectors except automotive, which, as you know, is very much in trouble due to a number of factors. Our bench is small, and it will stay small for a while. The bench means our people who are not busy at the moment, who are between projects, if you may say so. So the number of our employees has been steadily growing. This model has been pursued. Our growing revenue is linked to an increase in the headcount. Let's move on. Our offices, no major change here. Our presence has remained stable. Geographically speaking, most of our people are located in Central and Eastern Europe, Poland, Romania, Croatia. We have a growing team in the UK, almost 200 people. We are growing in India. This is one of our acquisition targets, as we said in the communications. The US is where we will see a growing number of clients, and we are also already serving quite many of those. Business sectors, two new points here. AdTech and MarTech, right at the bottom of the screen, a company we founded this year in Q2, will be focusing on clients in this sector. This is a kind of niche expertise, not easy to deliver, but we have found people who have that kind of competence. So we have founded a company to specialize in this business. This business model has been quite successful for us for quite a while, and I think it's a good decision. This company has even better prospects than I thought. I never thought it wouldn't have a good outlook, but it has a better outlook than I thought. And then the next industry we have here is defense, security, and airspace, right in the middle. As you may recall from our previous meetings, we have been trying to position ourselves in this sector for quite a while. We've won some new contracts, not an easy thing to do. We needed to acquire certificates. Everybody wants to enter this industry right now, so the entry threshold is high and there's a lot of competition, but we've won new contracts. So these are the two new sectors, and we have been heavily investing by founding new companies such as AdTech, but also hiring new people to help us grow our existing segments. Healthcare, we are also hiring AI consultants, especially in the US now, and we are growing through acquisitions. So most of these initiatives in our sector affect our EBITDA margins because they generate additional operating expenses. So we are expecting in the coming quarters to continue investing heavily. So with the investments, the EBITDA margins will probably remain at the current level, at the level that we have been targeting, but maybe at the bottom range of the bracket, so with the heavy investments we are engaged in. As we've said on many occasions, it's a marathon for us, not a sprint. And in our industry, those who do not invest will be left out. Our peer group comparison, as you can see, we look quite good positioned in this group. The peer group has differentiated with large companies such as Globant or Endava, which are not growing fast, and smaller companies, which are better fit to face the realities of the current markets and are growing a bit faster. As I said before, our specificity is that we use AI to acquire clients, develop projects, and deliver. That's what we sell. We sell deliverables. Classical team extension is now 15% of our revenue.
inne duże firmy
And some other big companies,
przychody z tego tytułu
well, their
sięgają
revenue from team
poziomu
extension
zdecydowanie powyżej 50.
is much
I w
above
tym wypadku bardzo
50%.
występowały problemy, bo
And
faktycznie
so they will be
część
in
z tej
trouble
pracy sztucznej
because
inteligencji,
some of
która jest
that work
stosowana
will be
wewnętrznie
taken
do
over by
do realizowania celów
internally
technicznych,
implemented
natomiast
AI
bardzo ważny
delivering
nasz model
projects.
polega na
But
sztucznej
in our
inteligencji.
business model,
Może
we
wyniki.
are different. Let's move on.
Wyniki finansowe,
The
więc
financials, over to Wojciech.
Dziękuję, Konrad.
Thank you, Konrad.
Więc jak Konrad wspominał, przychody
As Konrad said, our
skonsolidowane wzrosły,
consolidated revenue
wyniosły
grew to 289 million, up nearly 37% year on year. As we have said, our priority is to deliver the objectives under the strategy, CAGR revenue of 33%. The next slide will emphasize that we have been successful in pursuing this strategy. The bench in the share of the bench in the expenses was 2.7% in the first half, much lower than in the first half of 2024 at 6% back then. Organic growth of our revenue of the group, excluding Cardibly, Cardibly is not included in our 2024 results, but it is included in the 25 results. So the organic growth of revenue was 30% in the first half and 32% in Q2 alone, excluding Cardibly. As I've said, according to our strategy, published in 2021, we continue to pursue our objectives successfully. The next slide shows the EBITDA at nearly 30 million in the first half, up 30% year on year. The EBITDA margin was 10.2 versus 10.8, which is slightly below the lower end under the strategy. The EBITDA margin adjusted for M&A costs was 10.5% in the first half. What's new in this slide, and we are starting with Q2, we are presenting the EBITDA margin adjusted for M&A costs, which have grown significantly in the last 6 months, especially in Q2. The drivers of the EBITDA were the costs of the group relating to the automotive industry situation and the transformation, as well as the salary levels, which remained stable, and the costs we paid for M&As, especially in Q2. Now, this slide that we've been showing for quite a while, FX rates and the impact on our financials. Despite the deteriorating conditions from our position as an exporter of services, the FX rates have deteriorated for us. The zloty has appreciated, yet we have coped with these circumstances quite successfully. Our group's net profit was 17 million in the first half, up 41.4% year on year. The drop in Q2 was due to lower tax breaks than the year before. That's the R&D tax breaks, 0.7% in Q2 versus 3.5% in Q2 24. Let me explain. In the first half of 2024, we requested repayments for past years. This is why we had a bigger impact. The positive impact on the profits of Q2 came with financial income at 1.2 million, mainly from the valuation of forward contracts. Our P&L, a comparative P&L, as you can see on the right-hand side, we have added a comparison between Q1 and Q2 with some bigger changes relating to the transformation that Konrad talked about earlier on. The costs of general management were growing faster in 2025 than in 2024 in Q2 quarter-on-quarter for a number of reasons, including the costs of cardibly, which were not shown in the 2024 costs. In addition, we have some additional investments that Konrad also mentioned and that will continue in the coming quarters. And if you compare Q2 and Q1 and the 20% increase in costs of general management, that was due to higher costs in sales, operations, and marketing, as well as the financial division, because in Q2 we paid higher costs, still within the budget, relating to the audit of the first half balance sheet. And you can see the additional impact of the FX rates on the operations of the group. And in addition, a word on income tax. The impact of the refunds will only be visible by the end of the year because we are still paying advances and we will adjust the tax after the end of the year when we request the full refund for our R&D. So the effective tax rate, as I've been saying over and over again, our effective tax rate from our business in Poland is close to 0%. And now over to Sebastian. Thank you. Yes, let's have a look at the revenue mix by sector. As we've said a number of times, we can see the impact of the acquisition of Codibly and the additional impact of e-mobility, renewables, and energy. And the BBC contract under media and entertainment. The biggest business unit, the vertical business unit we're serving now is media. The second biggest, following the drop though, is automotive, which remains a significant part of our revenue. The third biggest revenue segment is financial services. Let's move on. This is our revenue by sector again. In numbers, media is close to 60 million zloty in revenue. The geographic mix of our revenue, no change here. Our biggest markets include the UK. The UK has actually switched numbers, or rather places, with Germany year on year. The second biggest market we sell to is DACH, Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, followed by Poland and the US, of equal sizes. The US is one of our strategic directions of investment and growth in the coming months and years. The prospects, the outlook. Well, here, the main direction we are looking at is to continue our key quality of diversification. It's been working well for us. Diversification of the group is very successful in mitigating turbulences across different sectors. What we are aiming to do, as Konrad said, well, we have completed the transformation in the automotive industry and we are trying to grow in defense, security, and aerospace, and also in ad tech and market tech. When it comes to defense, we have already announced our first successes, the contract with ENISA. We've recently signed another small but important contract relating to satellite communication. That's also part of our defense segment. And we can see that this is a very strong pillar, a good direction that we want to continue growing in. Next, acquisitions. As usual, we are looking to Asia, India, and also the US especially, but we are also quite opportunistic, looking at whatever may come in other markets, whatever may be of interest to us. AI is now everywhere. There was a lot of hype about AI over the past few years, but now we can see that AI is actually being productive. We are now looking for high-quality consultants in the US as the main pillar of delivering AI-based services to companies in the US. That's one of our key objectives. Let's go back to the previous slide. We are also looking at the healthcare segment, which is now about 5% of our total market, but we can see it has great potential, especially in the US. So that's another key direction for us in the coming years. What's also interesting, and here we can see some interest, is the Middle East, in particular the Gulf states. And we have taken steps to become more present in this market. Ad tech. We can see a growth potential. It was a good decision for us to go into this business. Ad tech, advertising technologies. This sector develops tools to support digital advertising. These tools are relating to planning, selling, buying, or targeting online advertising. And there's a lot of impact from AI in this business. We believe that our competences in this area, combined with our scale as a group, will produce positive results. Our contract with Orlen, let me focus on that for a moment. Orlen is a brand everybody knows in Poland and beyond. For us, this is a significant contract because under this contract, we are implementing a solution for online management for a grid of electric car chargers. We're implementing it under a license, and then Spyrosoft, or rather our subsidiary Codibly, will be distributing this product further on under a license. This is a very important contract for us from this perspective. AI. We've said a lot on AI. For us, AI is currently one of the key directions of our sales. 4% of our revenue come directly from AI-based services. AI is present across the vast majority of our projects, more or less present. And as I've said, AI, our AI-related competences, a case study, and our clients' references that they share. All these reasons make us rely on AI in attracting new customers. But AI is not only about attracting new clients. It's also about internal operations to make us more efficient, to decrease our cost base, and also to respond faster internally. The job market, the labor market, the situation has not changed comparing to the previous quarters, so the situation is good, favorable for us. We don't have problems finding people. When it comes to high quality AI data experts, of course, you need to make a bigger effort. But when it comes to core competences, there's a big choice of specialists who respond to our job ads. And our strategy, as we said before, we have maintained our strategy that we continue to pursue. Looking at the different vertical BUs and the outlook for the upcoming quarters, negative about automotive. The situation here remains turbulent and uncertain. There's a light at the end of a tunnel, but it would be too early to hope for more or to make any declarations. The financial services industry is growing, as are media. That's our biggest client segment. Robotics. It's not yet a big segment in our business, but we can see growth potential there. Defense, security, and airspace definitely growing. With the early contracts looking good, but we still need to make an effort to become more present. AdTech and MarTech, something I've mentioned before, segments where we can see solid growth potential. As for the other vertical business units, the situation is stable with no risks on the horizon. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking us through this presentation. Thank you for all the interesting updates on the first half and Q2. We have questions. You can continue asking more questions. We now have a number of questions that came online. You can use the Q&A section on your Zoom screen. Enter your questions. We will read them out and to take them. So now let's open the Q&A. Przemysław Staniszewski, analyst investor, is asking, you've mentioned the cost of transformation of the automotive division. What is the financial impact of this, let's say, one-off in Q2 in this regard? Could you quantify that? Thank you for this question and an inspiration. I wanted to update our EBITDA numbers. Well, let's hope this is a one-off, and it looks like a one-off. Now, the impact is, in the first half, automotive generated a loss for us, but in the second, it should generate a profit. So without disclosing too much details, I think that is possible, and I have proof. So we will turn the loss into a profit. That's the impact of the one-off. That's all I can say at this point. I hope you're happy with my answer to your question. Thank you. Patryk Stańczak, individual investor. Good figures from the European market reported by competitors are positive, as they can prove positive sentiment of clients. On the other hand, growing competition may affect your competitiveness. Can you see the pressure of your competitors? Are they breathing down your neck? Well, what are you asking about, really? I don't think I got your question. Well, the question is, when you look at the peer group comparison, there's growth, but could this competition affect you in the European market adversely? Well, we've always faced competition and we will be facing competition. So, yeah, competition is out there for sure. What can I say? How are we better than our competitors? That's the question. Looking at our peers, there is competition out there, but we are trying to focus on ourselves and how we can improve. We are good at things. Other companies are good at similar things, but we are very good in being strongly diversified. And I can see a trend in the peer group. They are not diversifying. They are diversifying. Some companies had some vertical BUs focused on certain sectors that they are now closing down. For instance, they have financial services and everything else. That's not a good strategy. We don't want to do that. That's how we are better, how we are different. We are focusing on what our customers expect. That's one thing. We have our horizontal structures, our service lines that provide the technological expertise that could be implemented across many different segments. And that's another good decision. That's something we're doing very well as well. Our business model that we mentioned before is how we deliver results to our clients. With this business model, AI is helping a lot. It is helping us to deliver quicker, better, cheaper. If our business model was just to deliver experts, that would be a problem for us. And some of our peers or competitors are doing just that. We are doing less of that. So all of it makes me think that despite all the competition we've seen and continue to see, it shouldn't really be a problem for us.
Dziękuję bardzo. Jeszcze
Thank you.
pytanie pana
Another
Patryka.
question from Patrick.
Konkurencja za granicą podkreśla
Foreign
nacisk
competition
na
are
AI-based
stressing or
solutions,
putting
właśnie
a
platformy, model
focus on
subskrypcyjny,
AI-based solutions,
tworzenie szkoleń
proprietary
językowego,
platforms,
utrzymanie przewag
subscription models.
konkurencyjnych.
It would seem
Czy
that's the
podzielają
only
państwo
way
taką
to
opinię?
keep up the competitive advantage. Would you
Jeżeli
share
chodzi o
that
AI, to na
approach?
pewno podzielamy opinię, że jest
When
to
it
bardzo
comes
ważna
to
część.
AI, we
Natomiast
believe it's
należy
an
też zwrócić
important
uwagę,
part
że
of the
powinniśmy na niego
picture,
patrzeć
but
na trzech różnych
you should look at
poziomach.
it
Pierwszy
from
poziom to
three
jest nasz
different
wewnętrzny.
perspectives. One,
Używamy w tej
internal.
chwili
We
AI-driven
are
development,
using
tak, coding
AI-driven
różne ma to nazwy.
development,
Praktycznie we wszystkich
coding,
projektach działamy
whatever you
w tym
call it,
celu po
across the
prostu
different projects as a
uniknięcia, nie użyć
default,
takiej przyczyny
as the
sztucznej.
default model.
Robiliśmy
If
tego
clients don't want us to do
wielokrotnie,
that,
każdy
we
z nas
don't,
to robi.
but
I to jest
otherwise we
nasze
would
wewnętrzne
do that.
przeżycie
That's our internal
tych rozwiązań. Jest też
application of
rozwiązania
AI solutions.
back-office'owe, które
We
wdrażamy
also have
w
back
Polsce.
office
W tej chwili naszym
solutions we are
celem jest nie
implementing. So
zatrudnianie
our
innych
policy
osób
is
back-office'owych,
not to
a
hire more back
automatyzowanie
office staff, but
rodzaju
rather to
pracy.
automate
Nie w ten
using
sposób,
AI.
który mamy.
We don't
Ponieważ
want to fire the great people we have. They are doing a great job. They are very knowledgeable about our company, but we want to equip them with tools to help them. That's the basic level. Then we
Tutaj mówimy o konsultingu
move to the
AI-owym,
client
czyli
focus
po pierwsze
perspective.
rozumiemy branżę klienta, po
AI
drugie możemy
relating,
przyjść i powiedzieć,
we can
wiemy, że tego typu
talk to our
rozwiązania są
clients
na
and
przykład
say,
wdrażane przez Twoją konkurencję,
your
używamy tego
competitors are
rozwiązania,
implementing these
uważamy, że możesz
solutions.
z tego
We are doing
korzystać.
it for your
Rozumiem, że
peers.
to jest
You
to,
could use
co
that as well.
niektórzy chcą ubrać w platformy i
So
wszelkiego
that's
rodzaju inne piękne słowa. To jest to,
what
co
you
robimy.
call
Drugi to jest
platforms.
oczywiście wdrażanie
That's
AI na
something we
poziomie
do. But
rozwiązań
we
technologicznych
are
i to
also
jest to,
implementing
robimy
AI
na
in
naszych klientach.
technologies, in
Raczej
solutions, for instance, in
czy jedynym
e-commerce. That's
sposobem
been
na
very
zarabianie
successful.
pieniędzy w IT będzie robienie
In
takich
IT,
AI agentów albo platform
is
AI-owych?
all you can do to
Absolutnie nie.
develop your AI
Uważam,
agents or
że dużą
platforms? Is that
zwrotną
the only way you
okolicznością
can make
właśnie
money?
takich
I don't
AI
think so. For
robienie tego
companies
typu
like
rozwiązań
us,
dla naszych klientów,
it's a great
jeśli
option to
wdrażamy
provide such
rozwiązanie
solutions to
istniejących
customers
infrastruktur,
or
takiego
to
nie ma.
integrate
Potrzebujemy
them
głębokiego
with the
doświadczenia,
client's
do
systems.
tego
And that
potrzebujemy
requires a lot of technological
nawet
expertise
wdrożenia
and
tego typu infrastruktur.
specialists
To
in
jest to, o czym
different
Sebastian mówił.
segments and sectors of our
AI
clients. That's
na
what
sposobie
Sebastian said. Our
wdrażania powiedzmy
AI-based
modeli.
revenue,
To jest około 4%.
that's about
Natomiast
4%, strictly speaking.
waga
But
tego, tych 4% jest dużo
that
większa. To
4%
jest nasz
matters a
taki
lot
klin, który
because
przyklejamy się po to, żeby robić
that's a
więcej.
wedge we
I
drive
klienci
in
to bardzo
to do
doceniają.
more, and clients
My mamy
love
swoje
it.
rozwiązania
We
AI-owe,
have
mamy
our
swoje
AI-based
klientów i swoje
solutions, our
platformy.
AI agents, and our
Jak najbardziej.
platforms.
Też
Of
je
course, we do.
deployujemy, też je wdrażamy.
We are
Natomiast
implementing them, we are
to jest
applying
droga
them.
do tego,
But
żeby świadczyć usługę,
that's
a nie,
how we open the
nie
door to
planujemy
deliver a
transformacji
service.
modelu
We are
firmy,
not
do
planning to
modelu, gdzie będziemy
transform our
dostarczać
business model
platformy
to
AI-owe
license our
tego typu
AI
rozwiązania dla
agents and
klienta.
platforms. That's not
Taką
what we
mamy,
want
taką
to do.
robimy.
But we have
I
those
tego
solutions
próbujemy
and we
bardzo mocno
offer them
rozwijać.
just to make sure that customers
Panie
buy
prezesie,
more
czy w
from
związku z
us
tym dynamicznym
by way of
rozwojem w tym
services.
obszarze nie
So
ma
based
ryzyka
on this dynamic
oddziaływania
growth, don't you
zbyt
think
niskich
there's a
specjalistów
risk
do
of a
realizacji naszych
bottleneck
potrzeb?
in
Nie,
hiring
to nigdy nie.
experts to develop these areas?
Zawsze
No,
jest trudno pozyskać dobrych
surprisingly not.
specjalistów, a
It's
im
always hard
wyższy
to
jest
find
pracownik,
good
zwłaszcza
experts.
specjalistów w obszarze AI,
It's
tym
hard to
trudniej.
find AI experts, harder
W obszarze
than
programowania,
find
znających języka programowania, natomiast
programmers using the different
jest to zdolne.
programming
Wydaje się
languages,
też
but
w
it's
Polsce,
not that hard.
że
And that's
spora
also
część firm,
because
takich
quite
hyperscalerów tak
many
zwanych,
companies,
dużych, prawda,
hyperscalers,
duże korporacje,
big international
w tej
corporations,
chwili część tych pracowników, którzy bardzo dobrze znają się na IT,
are
zwalniają
now
i trudno
firing
znajdą pracę.
some of
I
those AI
sam osobiście
experts and
jestem
they are
zaskoczony, że
looking for
bardzo
new
dużo
jobs.
tych
I'm
firm
surprised to see that
stwierdzi,
they
tak jak
want to
myślałem,
work
że będzie jakiś
for
odzew, ale
us.
to jest niższe spodziewanie.
We are actually
Brawo.
experiencing a positive
Panie prezesie, jeszcze jedno
situation
pytanie
there.
o personel.
Great. One more
Czyli
question
skała
about
ENG,
staffing.
Patryk zauważa, że
The
mocno
small
odstająca od
bench,
większych spółek
Patrick
globalnych,
says
nie
it's very
przeszkadza
different
przy
from big global
skalowaniu i
companies.
wzroście
Doesn't
kosztów
it
projektów.
stop you
Pozwolę sobie
upscaling your
na lekką
projects?
dociekliwość. Jak mamy niską
Well,
stawkę,
let
to
me be
niektórzy
sarcastic
inwestorzy
for a
mówią, że
while.
to źle. Jak my
When we
mówimy, że
have a
to
big
właściwie
bench, some investors
więc to
say
jest
that's
chyba
bad. When we have a
dosyć
small
naturalne.
bench, others
Natomiast
say
tutaj
that's bad. But
dlatego
the
mamy
answer to your
swoje
question is
ograniczenia,
no,
bo mówimy w
because
tej chwili bardzo proste i
it's
szybkie.
very easy to
Pozyskujemy
find new
zespołu.
people. There are many
Gdybyśmy
people
wzięli
out there
zatrudnienie
to
na stałe,
grab.
to
If we
musimy
kept many
długość.
of them
O
on
wiele
the
łatwiej
bench,
nas
that would
pozyskać w
be
tym
wrong.
modelu, który
It's
mamy,
much easier for
gdzie
us to operate
dużą
under the
część
current
osób,
model, where
które pracują w
many
naszych
of
projektach,
our people
pożyczamy z
working
zagranicy.
on projects
Mamy
are loaned
zatrudniliśmy
from other
mamy
companies.
dość mocno
We haven't
rozwiniętą
mentioned that,
ilość
but
freelancerów,
our
którzy są
freelancers are
współpracujący,
growing in
które
numbers.
przychodzą do
Hundreds
nas
of
po to,
people
żeby
now
realizować pewien
joining
projekt.
us
I
to
jeżeli
do a
ten projekt
project.
rzeczywiście jest kontynuowany, to
Once
kontynuujemy
a
współpracę
project continues, we will continue working with them. But then we part ways, and then we contact them once again with a new project. That's why our bench is small. Instead of keeping a big bench and forcing people to remain on furlough, we are using freelancers who are easily available in big numbers due to the conditions in the labor market. So I don't see why we should keep many people on the bench unless they are key to develop specific areas.
Profesor Staniszewski, pytanie o kontrakt
Another
BBC.
question
Prośba o
about the BBC
doprecyzowanie
contract.
kwestii
Could you
kontraktowania waszych
clarify
usług przez BBC?
how
Jak to
BBC
wygląda
is
obecnie
contracting your
i jakie są
services
perspektywy
now, and what is
najbliższe?
the
26
outlook
pan
for
prezes wspominał, że ma być
2026?
dobry. Co to
You
może
said the
oznaczać?
outlook is strong. What does it mean? That's a question from Przemysław Staniszewski. As you know, we do not release any forecasts, so we have to be rather vague in whatever we say. But a good outlook means it's not going to be worse than it is now.
A jeśli te kwestie kontraktowania możemy przybliżyć, jak
Could you
wygląda?
also talk about contracting a little bit more?
Nie rozumiem, co pan pyta.
What are you
Okej, to
asking?
poprosimy pana Przemka, może
Okay, so maybe
jeśli nie jest
Przemek
wyczerpująca, to poprosimy o
could
doprecyzowanie.
ask a follow-up question
Pytanie
if he's not happy.
o sytuację rynkową w ostatnich
A question
miesiącach.
about the market. In the
Jak
past
średnio
months,
ocenia
the
skłonność
market has
zarażania
not been very
bezpieczeństwa
positive
systemu
about
cyfrowego w
IT
gruncie?
companies
Czy
whose
ta sytuacja wpływa
share
na
prices have been
zaplanowane
dropping.
procesy
Does
akwizycyjne
it
oraz
impact
wzrost
your
przyszłych
planned
opcji strategicznych?
acquisitions and the ongoing review of your strategic options?
Nie będziemy
No,
dyskutować, rynek
but we are
się
not arguing with the market. The market is never wrong.
niż to. Bardzo proszę.
Would my colleagues like to add anything to that?
Ja myślę, że tylko mogę dodać, co Konrad powiedziałeś, to tak jak mówisz, z rynkiem się nie dyskutuje.
As you said, Konrad, you don't argue with the market.
Wszystkie z naszej grupy
And
porównaliśmy
all the
i teraz,
companies in the
żeby
peer
tego
group,
spotkania by pewnie nie wystarczyło, jakbyście
if
zaczęli
we were to
opowiadać
discuss them
tej
one
sytuacji,
by
czym my się
one
różnimy od nich, że to
and
w tym robimy
show how we are
pewnie w tej samej
different from
branży,
them,
ale
we would never
struktura
end
firmy
this meeting.
nasza i
Our
tych spółek jest inna,
structure
więc
is
pewnie
different
nie
from
ma jednej
theirs.
odpowiedzi.
So
Jak
there's
z was
no
widzę, to my po prostu
one
szybciej rośniemy niż
good
te
answer.
wszystkie spółki, których
But for
jak
sure,
patrzę na
we are
szybką
growing faster
transformację
than the peers.
automotive,
Our
dotyczy
transformation
części
in the
naszego
automotive
przedsiębiorstwa, tam może
industry
to dotyczyć
concerned a part of our
większej
business,
ilości
but it may
biznesu
actually have a bigger impact
Ja tylko dodam, że czasem mam wrażenie, że
on
jak właśnie
other
patrzę na
companies
te
and
duże
many more of their
technologiczne
business units.
spółki,
When I look at our
faktycznie
peers,
wydawałoby się, że
I sometimes
może nie
feel
można
like, even though they are big and smart companies, they don't always act like they are big and smart because sometimes they make short-sighted efforts just to improve their quarterly figures this quarter, next quarter, in 2 quarters from now, without thinking ahead. One big company has actually got rid of most of their vertical business units, and now they have financial services and others. So how are they going to compete? It's not about resources anymore. It's about industry expertise. A provider, your business partner, such as Spyro, as a client, they invest a lot to choose the right the right business partner. So if anyone cuts down on expertise, they are shooting themselves not in the leg but in the head. So I think companies sometimes lack this long-term thinking, and they are too itchy, and they act short-sightedly without thinking ahead beyond the next quarter and improving your EPS for a while. So that's my brief comment on that.
W tym wątku jeszcze, czy
To follow up on that, your contract with Orlen Codibly shows that you are open about taking over product-based companies or to develop your products in the future, or would that be a far-fetched conclusion? It's the right conclusion, but please don't take it any further. Codibly is a great company, but they have a slightly different business model than we do, or the other Spyrosoft Group companies, because a large part of their revenue and profit is generated by licensed intellectual property. That's a very narrow specialization, and that's the right choice for Codibly. I think step by step, the other companies will be also focusing on licensing the IP more and more. But we are not going to be a product provider as such, because intellectual property is here for us to continue selling our services. We are not going to compete with our clients in developing products, to be honest.
Dziękuję bardzo.
Thank you.
Pytanie od inwestora
A question from a
zagranicznego
foreign
MNS.
investor.
Czy freelancerzy są wliczeni
Are
w ten
freelancers
wykres,
included
pokazywano
in the
1949 na
numbers
koniec okresu?
1949 at the end of the period?
Tak.
Yes,
Tak.
yes, they are.
Dziękuję bardzo.
Thank you.
Pan Przemysław Staniszewski
Przemysław
wraca z prośbą
Staniszewski
do
is back
precyzowania
with a follow-up
odpowiedzi o
question
BBC.
about
Pytanie brzmi, w jakich
the
okresach
BBC contract.
Wam zadania i projekty?
Over
Okresy
which
kwartalne,
periods would
półroczne,
BBC
muszą mieć oczywiście swój
contract
budżet
you?
zatwierdzony przez jakąś
Quarterly,
wyższą instytucję
semi-annually?
rządową, czy robią to
Is
na
the
własną
budget
rękę?
approved by a governmental institution or are they independent? Well, the BBC is a government institution, so the budget is approved by the government, but the duration of the contracts differ. We have a large scale of business with them, so sometimes it's 1 quarter, sometimes it's 6 months. As I've said, however, we are expecting the revenue stream to continue until the end of the year and beyond into the next year. This is the planning horizon for the BBC. And then we'll see what happens afterwards with the planning. But I might say without false modesty that they are very happy with our services, and so I would expect them to continue working with us.
Pan Marcin Kremer
Thank you.
jeszcze
Marcin
pytuje o
Kremer
sektor
is asking about the defense and security
jakimi marżami,
industry. What
relatywnymi
margins
instrumentów,
relative to the other segments
charakteryzuje się ten rynek?
are you earning in this market?
To ja mogę wziąć to pytanie.
Let me take this question.
To trochę zależy.
It depends.
Patrząc na te doświadczenie, które
Looking at the experience with the contracts we've had, the margins are quite similar to the other segments. We are now learning about this new sector, trying to get a better feel of it. But the public sector is such that if you have a good competence, you can get good results, because many of those projects are fixed priced projects. So for the time being, our experience is that what we've been earning in terms of margins is similar to the other sectors, but eventually I'm expecting the margins to be superior. Thank you. The contracts of the conditions of your contract with the Polish financial institution, are they similar to what you communicated last year? Significant impact, but under 10% of your revenue? That's a question from Patrick Stanczuk. Yes, the contract has been signed, and now we are in the proof of concept. So we are starting to work together on a relatively small scale. So the impact of this contract on our revenue will remain very small by the end of the year, negligible. It's a big contract. The financial institution wants, however, to test our relationship, which we are doing, and this is working fine. If everything works well, and I hope it will, then we'll see a bigger impact next year. Thank you. Question about your plans regarding potential acquisitions. What is the scale of potential acquisitions? Would you be looking at employer effective framework companies with headcount-based revenue, or is this comparable to any of your subsidiaries? Well, remember why we are looking at acquisitions. 3 priorities. 1, clients in the US, and production, delivery of services. That's our top number 1 priority. Second priority, something we could do, but we are not doing, but because we are not knowledgeable enough. So if we find a company that is great about Microsoft Dynamics, then I think we could talk. Third priority, Sebastian talked about our opportunism. If the fit is right, we will invest. And so these are our goals. But what we are not going to do, I think, is we are not going to invest all the money we have and get a bank loan to buy one big company and have a big merger, spectacular merger. That's not something I would expect us to do. But when it comes to companies in India, for instance, we will be looking at bigger companies with hundreds of staff. But in the US, in contrast, dozens of staff. We want to open up new markets instead of touching up our EBITDA to seem bigger. We have a question from Mr. Garcia, Pedro Leon Garcia. Could you give more color on the increase in investments that are having an impact on your EBITDA margin? Which margin should we expect for the rest of the year and 2026 in terms of EBITDA margin, considering your investments? Well, let me start and then Wojtek will take over. Investments. Let me tell you about our current investments. M&As, which are not going to impact our EBITDA margin, not at the time of acquisition. But then we are setting up new subsidiaries as well. So sometimes we build a new division internally in one of the subsidiaries and then we spin it off as a separate subsidiary. And of course, this will reduce our EBITDA margins. And this is what we are doing at this point in time. And then we also have new people in the UK who are very good in healthcare and life sciences, and they will cost us money. It's looking good. We have placed first tenders, but this generates some expenses. Same goes for the media. The same goes for AI consultants in the US. These are personal expenses, part of our OpEx, and it will continue to remain high. We are not being very aggressive about it. We've been doing it all along, so I think the margins will remain stable as a percentage. Wojciech, would you like to take over? Yes, if I may add something about the margins under our strategy. This year, we're expecting the margin to remain at the lower end or slightly below 11%. But let me refer you to our strategy and the swap for our shareholders in the minority interest subsidiaries. This year, by the 15th of December, according to our strategy, we have to say whether 2026 will be the reference year. And then I would expect lower investments. If any, they will be seen on our balance sheet rather than the P&L. As Konrad said, since the very beginning, our preferred option to invest is to set up new companies with managers who know how to run their business and grow it in the given sector. So then it shows better on our balance sheet because then we are taking loans to grow such businesses. Thank you. Wojciech, since you've been speaking, Marcin Nowak of Ipopema is asking about Q1, Q2, and the split of the 10 million EBITDA in automotive below your target. Could you show how it worked for you? Yes, you can see that in our financial results, the majority of Spyrosoft Solution Group costs, it's a group of several companies, most of the cost was paid in Q2. Q1 was still quite good. Let me talk about the transformation and how it worked. The transformation means, as we said in the last meeting, we lost our contract and we have reduced the number of our specialists. Some of them have been let go of and some have moved to work with a new client. Some of our employees have been redeployed to work on defense industry projects. So in Q2, this had the biggest impact on our costs, 70% and 30%, that's the mix, Q2 to Q1. Let me just say that we did not lose one contract. We actually completed one contract. Given the situation in the industry, however, the client has put on hold the next steps. But it doesn't mean that this will not be reactivated. So this was not a contract we lost. Absolutely, you're right. I misspoke. We completed a contract. Thank you for making this correction. Patryk Stańczak is asking, the increase in the costs of general management, 5 mil, that's 20% up quarter on quarter. Is this because of the automotive, or is this like a
Tak jak było
regular
mógł
change in
wspomnieć
operations?
przy tym slajdzie,
Well, as I said when I talked about the
że tam
P&L,
generalnie jest część rzeczy związanych na przykład z działem finansów w
this
drugim kwartale
is related to our
przyspieszyło, mamy
financial
podwyższone koszty związane z
division with
audytem,
higher costs in
dodatkowo w
Q2
działach
compared to Q1 due to
sprzedaży i
audits, and
marketingu
in sales
większe
and
koszty
marketing,
ponieśliśmy w
again,
drugim
bigger
kwartale niż w
costs
pierwszym,
paid
ale
in
to wynika z
Q2
dynamiki
compared to Q1
działania tych działów.
due to
I
the
co mogę powiedzieć, to nie przekroczyliśmy w żadnych
regular
z nich
operations,
budżetów
however, of these
zakładanych.
divisions. None of them have
Większe
gone above
nakłady są
budget.
w drugim
They were just
kwartale
paying
versus
more
pierwszy,
in
plus
Q2
dodatkowo
in costs
więcej w
compared to
budżecie mamy,
Q1,
jeżeli chodzi o
and
drugi
also
kwartał też.
credibly paid bigger costs in
Pan Przemysław Staniszewski
Q2
to
than in
jeszcze
Q1.
głębiej.
Przemysław
Z kwoty
Staniszewski
wolnej
is
liczby
elaborating
października
on
na
this.
Kodibni. Czy można
2.7
powiedzieć o
million
zwrocie
of
pozostałej
that
części,
amount
na
is
przykład
attributable to
inwestycje,
credibly. Could
sprzedaży,
you
marketing,
show us an
coś
overview
związane
of
z
the
automotive?
remaining
To
amount,
możemy
including
sprostować.
sales, marketing, reductions in
No to
automotive?
mi
What is
średnio, tak
this
powiedzieć,
distribution?
tak jak widzimy w
Well,
adjustowanej
as
EBITDA,
you
tam
can
około
see in our
800
adjusted
000
EBITDA,
mamy
about
menadżmencie na
800,000
działania
in
związane z
management costs relating
M&A-ami,
to M&As
i po milionie bym
and
rozłożył
1
na
million
sprzedaży
each
i
for
marketing.
sales and marketing.
Pan Przemysław Staniszewski
Przemysław
jeszcze. Proszę o
Staniszewski
rozwinięcie,
with another question.
przyczyny
Could you
słabego
elaborate on
segmentu
the
Spyrosoft
reasons
Solutions,
for the
patrząc na
weak
EBIT
performance
w
of
porównaniu
the
do tego roku? Mamy
Spyrosoft
wzruszenie
Solutions
EBIT-u o
segment?
10
Looking
ponad
at
milionów.
the
Czy jest jakiś komentarz?
6-month EBIT year
Mam
on year,
wrażenie, że to jest
it
coś, o czym mówimy cały czas,
dropped
także chyba
10.6 mil.
zostawiam Przemku
Well, we've been
przykład
talking
takiego
about it for a
przykładu
while.
Spyrosoft
I think we've
Solutions
said
to
it all.
jest
Spyrosoft
część
Solutions
automotive,
is
tak?
largely about the automotive sector. That's why.
Dziękuję.
And thank
Wszystko jasne.
you. That's very clear now.
Pan
Rafał
Iżyński
Iżyński
dopytuje,
is
czy możemy
asking
mówić więcej
whether you
szczegółów na temat
could
ewentualnego
share more
rozpoczęcia
details about the potential
w zakresie bieżących
acquisition of the
zysków
engineering
przychodów, czy jest
engineered
rentowna potencjalnej
framework
kwoty tej akwizycji.
in the context of the
Chciałem
current
zauważyć
performance
tylko
or revenue. Are they profitable?
Tak.
Well, that's not a company name.
Jest,
Understood,
tak,
understood.
jest
Yes,
jest to firma, która
it's a profitable company.
zatrudnia między 100 a 200 osób.
They have between 1 and 200 staff, and they specialize in what we just need, also in the context of the transformation in automotive. So they have strong roots in automotive, and we expect them to deliver two things. First, a better cost point when it comes to experts. Number two, some competences that we don't yet have, and the associated relationships with clients we could serve with our services. That's all I can say now. I think it will take a number of months for us to talk to this company, but whenever something is decided, we'll let you know.
Dziękuję bardzo. Pan
Thank you.
Radosław
Radosław
Chodkowski. Na
Chodkowski.
giełdzie w bilansie pojawiły się aktywa
There are
finansowe
financial
o wartości
assets
ponad 8
at
milionów złotych.
more than
Prośba o
8.2 million
przybliżenie
on your
istoty
balance
tej
sheet
pozycji.
now. What is this item?
Ta pozycja pokazuje nam
This
wartość
shows
związaną
the
z hedgowaniem
valuation
walut na
relating to
przyszły rok i
hedges
dwa
against
kwartały
currency
tego roku.
rates for next year and the remaining 2 quarters of this year.
Dziękuję.
Thank you.
Wróćmy na moment do rynku.
Going
Mamy
back
ostatnie
to the
3-4
market, we have
pozycje.
just a
Nasze
few minutes
pytania, proszę
left.
państwa, które są
And
do
if we
szczegółowienia
cannot
poprzednich,
take
pozwolę
any
sobie nie
detailed
odbierać,
questions,
ponieważ mam wrażenie,
sorry
że
about
pan
that.
Przemysław
We've
koncentruje się na BBC
really
i o
talked a lot
akwizycji i
about the
przejęciach.
BBC contract, the
Skupmy się na tym, co
M&As.
może się
So let's
wydarzyć.
focus on
Czy w
what
aktualnych
could happen
warunkach
under
rynkowych,
the current
wywołanych z jednej
market's
strony
conditions.
wzrost z drugiej strony geopolityka,
Lower rates,
państwa
geopolitics.
pipeline konwertuje lepiej,
Your
czy gorzej
pipeline,
niż w
is it
poprzednich
converting better or worse than in the past
mogę na to
periods?
odpowiedzieć, bo
Let me take
oczywiście
that.
mierzymy swój pipeline.
Of course, we measure our
I jak
pipeline,
porównamy sobie pierwszy
and if we
kwartał
compare
tego
the
roku
first
do
half
pierwszego
of
kwartału
25 with the first half of 24,
to wygląda lepiej.
it's looking better. The conversion time is
Wielkość
shorter,
tych deali, które
and the
się
size of the
odbywają,
deals we are
jest
closing
większa, więc
is
to
bigger.
jakby porównując
So,
czysto technicznie,
comparing the technicalities, it's looking better.
Pan Jarosław Gadomski.
Dlaczego?
Jarosław,
Ja zapytam, dlaczego?
let me tell you why.
Dlaczego?
You may
No
be
i to
asking
dlatego, że
yourselves
to, co
why.
widzimy od wielu
going back to what
od
we've been
czasu
saying for a while, this is due to our diversification, the approach we take to business,
dla nas
and that's
absolutnie
because
najważniejszy jest
our
klient,
top priority
lider,
is the
który
client,
może na równi z nim są
followed
nasi
closely
pracownicy.
by our people.
My
Maybe
absolutnie
they are
jesteśmy otwarci
on
na
a par
każdego
actually for
klienta,
us.
bo
We are open to serve any
uważamy,
clients,
że głównym źródłem
but the
naszego
main
biznesu są polecenia. My
source
jesteśmy
of
polecani
our
przez obecnych
business
klientów,
is
byłych klientów,
leads,
ludzi, z którymi
references
pracowaliśmy u danego klienta, czy
from
gdzie
our
byliśmy
existing and
współpracownikami,
past clients. When
kolejnych
people
organizacjach.
move
I
from
dla nas
client to
oczywiście jest
client, they
całkiem
would
ważne,
refer
aby
us.
się uzyskali.
So every client is important for us, no matter
właśnie,
how
to
big or
pytanie w
small.
tym kontekście,
So
czy
in this
rozważają Państwo
context, are you
rozbudowywanie działu
considering to
sprzedaży w najbliższym
expand your
roku?
sales
My nie mamy
division
typowego
next
działu
year?
sprzedaży.
We don't have a
Tak
sales
jak
division per
Państwo wiedzą,
se.
mamy szereg
As you know, we
wspólnot,
have a number of
które
subsidiaries
które są do siebie
which
zdywersyfikowane w
are
ramach
quite
części branż, które
diversified
obsługują albo zakresy
in terms of the
usługowe
segments they
obsługują, a także
deliver
dzięki
to or the services they
business
provide. So the
unitowi,
people
business unitu,
that run those
które
companies, the
musi
business
dobrze
units
obsługiwać
they
branżę, dobrze
have, are
pozyskiwać
responsible for
pozyskiwać.
sourcing
Wspieramy te
clients.
działania
We
poprzez
support them, of
dostarczanie
course,
szeregu
by delivering
źródeł biznesu. Tymi
a
źródłami
number
są
of
polecenia, są działania
leads,
marketingowe,
references for business
czyli
with
typowe
marketing
outbound,
initiatives, of
które
course,
przynoszą
outbound
stale
marketing
pracowników,
conferences
przynoszą biznes. To są właśnie
that
działania
also
związane
generate new leads
z
for us.
państwami, z
We
firmami technologicznymi.
have
To też jest
a
ważne źródło, ale
partnership
też po
with
prostu jest
technology
tutaj nasze podejście
companies
jest
as
bardzo
well.
różne od
So
tego,
our
jak to w innych
approach is
organizacjach. My
different
jednak
from
tak naprawdę
others
nie
because
zatrudniamy.
we don't really have
U nas
sales
sprzedaż
people
odbywa
per
się
se.
dokładnie, sprzedaż konsultingowa,
Our
dlatego też,
sales are
tak jak
based on
mówiliśmy,
consulting,
my
really.
aktywnie szukamy
So we are
konsultantów
actively looking for
AI
AI
w Stanach
consultants in
Zjednoczonych,
the
bo to jest
US
właśnie główna oś, a nie
because
sprzedawcy.
that's our main
Transferujemy na
thrust
przykład
rather
od
than
grupy
salespeople. That's how
Bulgaria,
we are
Java,
different from our
Stanowimy to
peers
jeszcze ten stary model sprzedaży,
who
gdzie
work under the
jest
old-fashioned sales model
duża grupa sprzedawców.
with a
Ja to
large
powiem
group
z
of
tego tylko
salespeople.
wynika z tego, że my
Why is
sprzedajemy
that?
usługi, nie
Because
produkty.
we are
Sprzedażemy
selling
produkt, a potem
services. We are
sprzedawamy
not
systemy,
selling
sprzedawamy
products.
usługi.
For products,
I
it makes
absolutnie tak nie
sense
jest.
to have salespeople, but not for services.
Ostatnie i
And
jeszcze
one
ostatnie pytanie
final
za
or
rachunku czasu.
penultimate question,
Pan
depending
Angel
how much time we have.
Menezes, biorąc pod uwagę
Angel
tego
Menezes, how,
przeglądu
well,
opcji
given
strategicznych, jakie
that
opcje są
you're
na stole,
running a
czy
strategic review,
interes inwestorów
what options are
indywidualnych
on the
byłby
table?
brany pod
Will
uwagę?
the interest of retail investors be taken into account during your review?
Tak, jest jak najbardziej brany
Yes,
pod uwagę.
we are
Proszę
taking
zauważyć, że
it
w
into
pewnym sensie my
account.
wszyscy jesteśmy inwestorami
We are
indywidualnymi,
all
po
retail
prostu jesteśmy
investors in a
pracownikami
way,
tej firmy, więc
although we are also
interes
employees of the
inwestorów
company. So the
indywidualnych nie
interests
są,
of retail
nie widzę takiej
investors
możliwości, żeby był inny niż mój prywatny interes. Tak powiem,
cannot differ from my
czasami będzie,
private
więc oczywiście jest brany pod
interests.
uwagę.
They are the same
To jest
interests,
pierwsza
so of course
kwestia.
they are
Natomiast
considered.
przegląd opcji
And
strategicznych
the
z samej
review of
strony
our strategic options, as the name has
bierzemy
it,
wszystko. I
covers it
absolutnie wszystkie
all.
opcje są brane pod
We
uwagę.
are considering
Niektóre z nich
all
są bardzo
possible options,
prawdopodobne
but
i
some of them are more
niektóre
likely
są
than others.
bardzo mało.
Some of them are very, very,
I
very, very
te opcje w tej chwili
unlikely.
oglądamy i jak tylko
So we are
będziemy wiedzieć,
considering
to
all
Państwu
the
przekazamy.
options, and once we know
Natomiast
more,
szereg
we'll
opcji
share
jesteśmy
that with
planujemy
you.
i realizujemy
And
te
as
opcje.
my
To
colleagues
jest
have said,
nasz
we are
model
pursuing
biznesowy,
our
to jest nasz
strategy.
kierunek.
That's the
Podczas
starting point
realizacji tej
for us.
strategii patrzymy,
So
czy
as
przypadkiem nie
we
będzie
implement
przypadkiem
our
zrobić coś
strategy,
innego.
we are trying to make
Oczywiście jeśli na
improvements,
to szanse są
and I
bardzo duże.
think
Ale to jest przegląd
the
opcji
opportunities are not great to improve on what we are already doing, but we are
Ale jeszcze raz podkreślam,
reviewing
interes
our strategic
inwestorów
options, and
indywidualnych
all the
jest
options
podstawą
are on the
decyzji.
table. But once again, the interests of retail investors equal
Państwa
my
wybiło
personal
południe.
interests.
Ostatnie
No
pytanie.
difference
Co
there.
może być większym
It's
driverem wzrostu
12
w
noon.
najbliższych
So
latach?
what could be a
Klienci czy
bigger
inwestorzy?
driver of growth in the coming years? Acquisitions or organic
Dobre
growth?
pytanie. Tak właśnie
It's a
dobre
good
pytanie.
question. Let me think.
Patrząc na to historycznie, to
Looking
jednak chyba wzrost
back,
organiczny,
organic
on jest
growth, I
jednak
think,
większy niż ten wzrost,
because
który
it's
przychodzi nam ze
stronger
względu na
than
inwestycje w inne firmy.
how we've been
Natomiast
growing through
to,
M&As.
co warto
But
zauważyć,
I
to w
should
momencie, kiedy
point out
mieliśmy
to
zainwestować
one
w tą
thing.
spółkę, to jest
Once we
bardzo
invest
ciężko
in
odróżnić
a
potem,
company,
jaki
it's
wzrost
very
jest organiczny,
difficult
jaki
to
nie. Mieliśmy z tym jakiś
tell
problem, bo
between organic and
większość Państwa
non-organic
pamiętają, kiedyś
growth. You
pokazywaliśmy
may
na
recall at
przykład
some
dużo
point
spółek
we
jednego rozlicza na
reported
wzrost organiczny i
on
organiczny.
our
W
growth
związku z tym nie ma
by
sensu.
organic and
Klasycznym przykładem
other.
jest Better Software
It
Group,
makes
firma, w
no
którą
sense.
zainwestowaliśmy
Look
rok
at Better
temu
Software Group, a
i teraz
company
może
we invested
tyle
in years ago.
zweryfikować, czy wygrali,
Would
czy
we have won the BBC contract without the BSG competence?
Może
Maybe
tak, może
yes,
nie.
maybe
Ważne, że te
not.
kompetencje nam się
These
przysługują.
competences
I
came
teraz
in handy though.
taki
So
wzrost niestety
how much is that
organiczny, a
organic
bardzo
growth?
często
How much due
konsekwencją
to our
inwestycji.
acquisition? So from
Dlatego
the booking, accounting, financial, mathematical point of view, I think it's organic growth. But M&As do contribute a lot to our organic growth. Thank you very much. We've gone beyond time. Thank you for being with us. Konrad, would you like to wrap up? Thank you very much and come back
Zapraszam
to
na
our
kolejną
next meeting.
konferencję.